If the current emails you are sending to your list achieve less than a 30% open rate, or they've been following a downward trend over the past few weeks or even months, this video is exactly for you. I know this is not happening just to your brand, but we're seeing this issue pop up across nearly every account that we audit. Now, deliverability problems are becoming the silent killer of e-commerce revenue, and the most brands don't even know that it's happening until it's actually too late. Now, why does deliverability matter so much? So the bottom line is that if you don't land in the inbox, no one sees your emails. This includes your actual paying customers who want to hear from you every single week. Now, here's what I'm going to be covering on this video. First of all, we're going to diagnose the problem. We're going to see if you actually need this solution. Doesn't make sense for us to implement something when you actually don't need it. Now, we're going to see how to actually set up a dedicated sending domain, how to fix it with proper segmentation, how to stay out of the promotions tab, and lastly, how to keep your list clean and engaged over time to avoid this happening over and over again. So without further ado, let's start with the first step. Now, starting off with diagnosis, as I previously said, before we actually try to apply any sort of solution, we first have to diagnose if your brand needs them in the first place. Now, the way we do this is the following. You have to go to your overview dashboard, right? I'm gonna show you how that looks like right now, and check the open rates for each email domain. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is go into dashboards right here on the left. You click overview dashboard and you add a card. Now, the card should look like email by domain, I believe. Let me read out exactly how it looks. So it would be email deliverability by domain. Now, this is already added for this account, but usually this is not added in every single account. So you need to do this manually. Now, once you do that, you want to see in a 90-day period, because 30 days doesn't really signal too much information or too much data. So you want to set that up to in the last 90 days, and you want to scroll all the way down. As you can see, here are the open rates for each domain. You can see. So that's how you actually see this. Now, there are two issues that highlight whether you have a deliverability issue or not. If your open rates are lower than 30% across the board, or if one specific email domain is lower than 30%. So as you can see here, this email domain, the hotmail.com domain, is lower than 30, and the Outlook as well. This is very common across client accounts, but this is something that needs to be addressed. And once you see this, you can see that you obviously have some sort of deliverability issue right here. Now, if every single open rate for every domain is higher than 30%, you shouldn't be too concerned, and perhaps you don't even need this video, so you can feel free to click off. However, if you see a downward trend in comparison to previous months and you're not applying strict measurements as of right now, you should start doing so before it's too late, as it can take up to 2 months for deliverability to fully fix itself, of course, depending on the state of the account. So that's essentially how you diagnose. And now we're going to go into laying the actual foundation. So if you're actively using Klaviyo, you probably have this already set up, but of course, you want to triple check this, that you have a branded sending domain set up, as well as a DMARC setup for your brand. So the way you do this is the following. Let me show you. So what you're going to want to do is go to your Klaviyo account, click down on the left, you click on settings, you click in domains, you connect a domain, you select your root domain of your actual brand. For this video, we'll do Nike.com. You'll click on next. You want to just put send or email here, doesn't really matter. You click on next and you select your domain provider. Now, this is going to depend on what domain provider you have right now, but typically the most common one is Shopify. And for the purpose of this video, I'll just stick to Shopify. But for every single domain provider, you have the instructions on how to do it depending on which one you have. So once you select your domain provider, you go into next, and here are all the records that you need to add to it. So it's super simple. Typically, you just need to select the type, NS, you put the name that you have here and the value. And you do this 5 times and you just copy and paste. It's super straightforward. And if you have any sort of question, you can reach out on my social channel. Now, going back to the actual foundations, the reason we actually do this is, first of all, to signal to inbox providers that we are a legitimate sender, which then reduces the probability of us landing in spam. However, this on itself won't fix it all, and you need to act on additional solutions to fix deliverability to 100%. Now, when it comes to segmentation, segmenting the right way will actually determine whether your brand's emails stay on the spam tab or in the inbox or promotions tab. So the majority of the brands go wrong here as they don't want to miss out on any subscribers from getting their latest email. But the truth is that if you really want to make long-term profits for your brand, you need to be willing to sacrifice a bit of short-term profits so that your emails then actually get seen on future subscribers as well as customers. I actually made a document here on how to actually segment properly and what to do to get out of spam. So let's jump into the document. So in order to figure out which segments to use, I've actually created 3 types of accounts that you can look at depending on where your account is at. So the first account is a type 1, and it's for the accounts who have open rates above 40%. Now, obviously, probably people that have this issue aren't watching this video. But if you actually do have open rates above 40%, you can simply send to the last 30 days using the same domain. Then for the account type 2 is the accounts that have not been sending emails for the last 30 days or have just created a new domain. And account type 3 is for accounts with open rates under 30% or showing signs of deliverability problems. So for the account type 1, you basically want to do this segment right here. So I'm actually gonna build this inside Klaviyo. So for client type 1 accounts, this is exactly the segment that you want to have. If someone can or cannot receive receive marketing, person can receive email marketing, and we don't want to include because person subscribed. We want to remove this and say and condition, super important here. And what someone has done, opened email at least once in the last 30 days, or clicked email at least once in the last 30 days, or if someone is or not in a list, person is in, and this should be your email list, the one that you are collecting emails with and was added in the last 30 days. So this is if you have no deliverability issues. So for client type 2, we want to have different warm-up segments. So the warm-up 1 should be if someone can or cannot receive marketing, can receive email marketing, or someone has done or not done clicked email at least once in the last 30 days, or if someone is or not in a list, is pop-up list and was added in the last 15 days. Now, I'm not going to create the segments for every single one because I do think that you get the idea after the one I've made, but it's super important that the and or condition are actually met, because this can either break the segment or actually do what it's supposed to do. So once you're actually averaging 30 to 40% open rates with this first segment that you created, you want to move up to the second segment. Now, even though I state weeks here, like week 1, week 2, week 3, this is going to be dependent on your account. So just take the rule of thumb of once you have more than 3 campaigns at a 30 or 40% open rate, then you can move on to the next one. Ideally, you want to wait for the 40%, but 30% is also a strong indicator. So once you have the week 2, you want to put a similar segment, but again, just copying exactly what we have right here. Then after this week 2, we want to move to the week 3, the warm-up. The warm-up 3, again, you can read all over these. And finally, the week 4, warm-up 4, if someone can or cannot receive in marketing. And again, you can read all this for yourself. You can feel free to pause the video. And finally, week 5 or 6. Again, you only move to the next segment after seeing 3 emails in a row with open rates above 40%. So again, feel free to pause the video and make sure to actually have the segments created. Now, moving on to how to stay out of the promotions tab. If your emails are no longer landing in spam and technically land in the inbox, there's the probability that it can either land on the promotions folder or the actual inbox. Now, it's less likely for subscribers to see your email if it lands in the promotions tab rather than the inbox, but there's a small caveat to this. Even if you apply all of these best practices, if 90% of your content is sales and promotional related, then ESP such as Yahoo, Gmail, Hotmail, these algorithms will still find a way to categorize you and put you in the promotions folder for a pretty large percentage of the time. However, here's what you want to do to increase your chances of landing on the inbox. So first of all, we want to avoid using super salesy language. That means words like free, discount, coupon, sale, buy now, ends at midnight, stuff that pretty much screams promo. Even in your subject lines, you want to tone it down and simply create curiosity in those subject lines for people to open, nothing else. So instead of writing buy one, get one free, you can try B1, G1 or buy one, get one, but just leave the really spammy words like free out of it. Also, you want to watch your email content. If it's packed with urgency, countdowns, and hypey copy, then obviously that's going to be a red flag to inbox filters. Then check your image alt text. If you're using graphics or uploading full image-based emails, you have to make sure that the alt text isn't filled with promotional keywords either, and you need to be super descriptive when it comes to the alt text. For instance, if you have an image where there's a model wearing a specific color dress, you need to actually state that. In this image, you can see a model from whatever origin wearing a dress that is red, right? So this is the best way to actually go about alt text, just being ultra descriptive. Now, the reason for this is because inbox providers like Gmail do scan the metadata, even though it's not visible to the reader. And according to the metadata that they analyze, they either categorize you into the promotions tab or the inbox tab. Now, you also need to be limiting the number of unique links. So if you're promoting multiple products, then don't drop 4 or 5 different URLs in one email, because what this does again is it signals to ESPs that we're sending our subscribers to almost different links, and it can come across as spammy. But instead, you can send people to one clean collections page that houses everything that you are promoting here. Then you want to include 300 to 500 characters of what we call secret text at the end of image-based emails. And the way you do this is the following. All right, so you want to go into ChatGPT and tell him the following prompt. Please provide me with the super descriptive information about this brand here. Aim to talk about mission, goals, and USPs of the brand, being as descriptive as possible. So for this brand is Nike.com, and make sure it's 500 words long, including spaces, and give it to me with no sources and no line spacing, just all together. And once you have that, you wait for the response. So once you're actually inside the design-based email, you want to drag the section, you want to drag the text here, and now you want to copy all the text that ChatGPT gave you right here, copy, and you need to make sure that, as I said, there's no line spacing in between. This is super important. And the way you want to do this now is you select everything, you put this into 0, and immediately you just click on the font, right? Nothing else. You just click here and you put Arial. And once that is done, you just click here and you have the text here. So then you save it as a universal content by saying secret text. You create that, and that is how you do this. Now, the reason we actually do this is to signal to our ESPs that we have some sort of text in our email and that it's not all design-based or image-based. So this is super important for them to see and scan the metadata that we actually have something in our email. Therefore, we want to include text here in a way that doesn't affect the design of the email as a whole, because as I showed you, you can't even tell that there's any sort of secret text here, but it rather just looks like a white block and that's it. So the email looks pretty much the absolute same. Now, last but not least, I'm going to show you how to actually keep your list clean and engaged over time, because keeping your list clean removes unengaged subscribers. And it's super important because not only would it allow you to improve deliverability as you're removing subscribers who are not engaging with your content, therefore increasing open rates and improving deliverability, but you're also reducing your Klaviyo bill by only paying for subscribers that want to hear from you. Now here's how to actually clean your list the right way to ensure you only remove unengaged subscribers. So here's exactly the sunset unengaged segment that I put in place. So opened email 0 times in the last 300 days, and clicked email 0 times in the last 300 days, and placed 0 times in the last 300 days, and received email is at least 15 overall time. Now, we then want to create a sunset flow whereby the trigger is someone joining the above segment, right? So email 1 will be haven't seen you in a long time, where we introduced an offer in a plain text format. Now, email 2 talks about reminding them about the offer and mentioning that you are removing them from the list in a plain text email coming from the founder. Now, if they haven't opened any of these emails, we then update the profile property to unengaged, and we make sure to suppress these profiles on a monthly or quarterly basis. So let me show you how this looks inside Klaviyo. Okay, so here's exactly how the win back flow would look like inside Klaviyo. So whenever someone is added to the segment we just made, and the profile filter is placed already 0 times since starting this flow. In the email 1, we basically say, hey, we missed you. You can actually put the offer here or in the second email. Then we wait 4 days. And then for the email 2, we want to just launch the offer at them. And after that, we want to update the profile property. So when it comes to the profile property, you basically have to go to the profiles of your Klaviyo account. And once you're here, you want to add a custom property and a property name such as unengaged, and select the value as true. You add a profile property, and once that is made, you need to make sure that you remove this from this actual person that we selected at random. You delete this, you go back into the flows, you add a step, update the existing property, and you select the property that we just made. So make sure to refresh the page. Once that is done, then you go into add step, update existing property, and you select the property we just made, which was unengaged. And you can see it's right here, and it's true. So we save. And then after you have this profile property update, you need to create a segment to have people go into this segment that you can then suppress quarterly or on a monthly basis. So the way you do this is as follows. So you go into segments, go into create new, you create a segment, you go into name, and you create unengaged subscribers. Then properties about someone, unengaged equals is true. That's it. And once you have this, you create the segment, and then you would be looking to suppress this segment on a quarterly basis. Now, it's also super important to create exclusion segments for your campaigns. So make sure to create this segment right here. Again, pause the video and copy it exactly how it is with the or, and every other conditional split that you can see here. So thanks for watching this video. I'll leave every single link in the description, the document, my social channels. And if you have found value out of this video, please feel free to subscribe. But other than that, I'll catch you on the next one.